I'm very pleased to be interviewing Alison Lowery, who's CTO, SVP of Engineering for Simulmedia. Thank you for your time today.
Oh, thank you.
Well, let's start with your background. How did you get to where you are today?
Well, I took a bit of a scenic route. I started out in software engineering, working for big pharma. I continued my education mostly in the evenings while I was working, and came up with 2 masters, one in computer science and one in business from Penn State, and decided I really wanted to get closer to business. So I went to my very first startup, many years ago, and from there have wound up here. So my first startup experience was actually in marketing. And then I got back into engineering, joined Dave Morgan's company, Real Media, and have been helping him out ever since at Takeda and then now at Simulmedia.
Alison, you're really one of the few CTOs that I've ever met who's female. Can you talk about being a woman in a largely male discipline?
Sure. I'm always surprised by that, because when I was going to school and getting my advanced degree in computer science, there were a lot of women in my class. We weren't the majority by any stretch, but there were quite a few of us. But since that time, I do notice that I am often in the room filled with men, both as engineers working on a project or in a management team even. And so I actually, when I do recruit, I state my bias right up front for women engineers, but they're very hard to come by, and I can't explain it. I am looking at different organizations that are mentoring women to get into the sciences. I am involved in some relationships with women CTOs. There are a few of us here in New York City that are just getting started out in their own early stage companies. So I don't have an explanation for it. I have noticed it, if for no other reason. I don't see myself very often sitting across the table.
Can you tell us about your job at Simulmedia? What is your average day? What do you do?
Well, I actually am based out of Philadelphia, so I come to New York 3 times a week. So that type of day is a little different than my work at home day. Much of my team is virtual, so that works out fine. I'm responsible for the technology side of the business. So I have technical operations who are responsible for making sure our infrastructure is healthy and that all of our data is secure. I have the engineering team, which is actually building out our product and all of our IP. I have the science team, who are a special team at looking at the methods that we're using with all the data that we're bringing in and transforming. And I have a data analytics team, which is helping to support the sales and marketing efforts and helping people understand the power of the data and answering their really very specific questions that they have. So my New York days are up very early, catch a train, come into the city, and I try to line up as many face-to-face meetings as I can with the folks here in New York, Dave included. And my work at home days, much shorter commute, obviously, but that's where I spend a lot of my time actually strategizing, working on architecture, and reaching out to the folks that are virtual.
So, you've been with Simulmedia since its beginning around 4 years ago. How has your job evolved, and how has the data that you use evolved?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I first came on board, I brought the core group of engineers with me, and so we were just getting started. We had a blank whiteboard, a single server, and 1 batch of test data. And so since then, we've built out our infrastructure, we've built out our team. We have a very healthy team now. We have a lot more data, and the complexity of it is much better understood. I have to say, when I first came on board, having come from an online kind of like data background, I thought to myself, how hard can this really be? And then I found that out. So 4 years later, I have a very good understanding of how hard it is. with a lot more data, a much larger team, and a lot more infrastructure.
How difficult is it for you to find qualified engineers, and are you hiring now?
I'm always looking for good software engineers, technical operations engineers, and scientists. And we have our job descriptions and openings out on our website at www.simulmedia.com. And so if you're at all interested in working in a very exciting industry that is going to be like changing, the face of advertising, especially television advertising or video advertising, and you love big messy data, we definitely want to hear from you.